Hey guys, Abraham Mohazy here, Pigs from the Past, and we have a very special guest, a San Diego native, all the way through and through. My man J.R. Tolver, how you doing?
Doing good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Man, thanks for joining us today. I know how busy you are, man. You've been a great friend, mentor to me. I really look up to you and respect you. That's why I'm very excited to have you on our show, Pigs from the Past. And for those of you that don't know, J.R. Tolver, he is a legend here out of San Diego, out of Mira Mesa, from Mira Mesa High School, QB out of Mira Mesa High School. Can you tell us a little bit about, your time when you were playing and, your journey through Mira Mesa?
Man, you know what it's all about, that quarterback grind.
Right.
Coming out of Mira Mesa and being a quarterback. Back in the day when I played, a lot of times you take your best athlete and you put him at that quarterback position. But we didn't have a lot of the stuff that they have today, the RPOs and things like that. It was literally just either be a drop back passer or run the option. And we, Coach Thompson, rest in peace, kind of created a system around me that allowed me to throw the football, but also gave me some freedom to run the football. So, my senior year, I threw for a couple of 1,000 yards, ran for 1,000 yards, and it was all because of the way that Coach Thompson and the Mira Mesa football team, allowed me to use my skills as a player to impact the team in the greatest way possible.
And was that your first year playing quarterback? How many years did you play quarterback?
No, so I started playing quarterback in the ninth grade, actually in the eighth grade in Pop Warner. I was a running back through youth. And then when I moved to California from Louisiana when I was 12, they switched me from running back to quarterback. So I played quarterback eighth grade all the way through high school until I got to San Diego State and they switched me to receiver.
Nice. And how was that transition for you?
The transition to receiver was hard, man. I mean, quarterback's a little bit of it's not a blue collar position. You don't have to run all the sprints and you don't have to do all the other things that everybody else is doing. But when I got to San Diego State and I had to play receiver, I mean, it was back in grind time from a physical standpoint, and it's different, right? It's one thing to drop back, make somebody miss that's rushing at you, as opposed to being a wide receiver, running a route, getting open. You're using different parts of the body. The mental game is totally different. So the first couple of years of playing receiver, I wasn't very good at it. I struggled at it. I thought about transferring out and, going to one of the military academies or something like that. But I stuck with it, had some great coaches, some great teammates, and it all worked out for the best.
Nice. And I want to get back to that. I really want to talk about, the exposure you got out of high school as a quarterback. What was that process like? Because, nowadays these kids have like social media, which, it wasn't like that for you when you were playing, or even PPR, that was like right when you finished high school. What was that, like for you then?
It was difficult, man. If you wanted to get seen, you either had to be one of the top players in the state or in the city, which again, you get 5, 10, maybe 15 guys like that a year. So it's sometimes hard to sneak your name into that, top 15, top 20 conversation. So for us, it was much more difficult. We didn't have social media. I couldn't promote myself through my highlight films or through my huddle or anything like that. PPR wasn't there showing, every single highlight of every single game, every single week. So that made it difficult. So it was a lot different. I think my senior year, I caught a couple of breaks, but it's still, I probably wasn't recruited as much as I would have been in today's day and age. Again, I was an athletic quarterback, and the only teams that really ran the option was Nebraska and the service academies. So if I was going to play D1 football as a quarterback, an option quarterback, those were really my options. And then San Diego State and Coach Lay and Coach Toner kind of came in at the last minute and said, hey, look, man, we really like the way you play the game. We think you can be a big time wide receiver. And that was kind of what convinced me to, give up the quarterback, play wide receiver, and stay home and play at San Diego State.
Was that a tough decision for you, or was it kind of like, you know what, this is cool, I'm ready to go all in on it?
You know what, man? Like, I sometimes, again, as somebody who is very conscious of the fact that football doesn't always work out, you don't necessarily always want to put your eggs in one basket. I wanted to go to the NFL. I mean, I had a dream as a kid since I was 6 years old to play in the National Football League. And I got recruited by Columbia, Ivy League school, the service academies, and San Diego State. And the reason that I chose San Diego State in full transparency was because I felt like it was going to give me the best opportunity to go to the National Football League. I was coming on the heels of guys like Will Blackwell, who was the second round draft pick to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Oz Akeem was a third round draft pick to the St. Louis Rams. I mean, San Diego State puts some dudes in the National Football League on an annual basis, and I wanted to be one of those guys.
That's cool, man. That's super cool. And you did that, you had an amazing career at SDSU. And by your senior year, you end up leading the nation with 137 yards per game. And we're second in the nation with 9 catches per game. Can you tell us a little bit about what that experience was like? Actually seeing your dream start to fruition?
Yeah, man, it was a journey. The first 4 years of my career were a little bit choppy. We had good football teams. We always had good football players. We just didn't win as many games as we should have. So the first, 4 years of my career, including my redshirt year, we just didn't win a lot of games. And so, unfortunately, Coach Tolner, who was my head coach, he got fired. And then Coach Kraft, who was the originator of the aircraft offense, was, the head coach at Palomar Junior College. He came in and became our head coach. And Coach Kraft made it very clear from day one that we were going to throw the crap out of the ball. So for me, it was really a culmination of, a few years of getting my feet wet, being an all conference receiver, second team Mountain West a couple of years in a row, and then having Coach Kraft come in and stall his system, and then all the stars just kind of aligned. But yeah, it was amazing, man. During the time, I'll be honest, it wasn't something that I was really thinking about because, again, we went 4-9 that season. So the wins always outweigh the stats, and we weren't just getting the wins. But looking back on it and seeing my name amongst some of the greats, Wes Welker and Crabtree and Nate Burleson and Rashawn Woods, we had a lot of guys that came out during that year that went off to have phenomenal NFL careers, and I had much better college seasons than them. So that's something that I'm proud of for sure.
Definitely, man, definitely. And then so after having numbers like the numbers that you were putting up within that system and draft, the draft to be drafted to the NFL was coming. What was it like for you leading up to the draft? What was that time like for you?
It was stressful, and this is something that I tell kids when I talk to them as they're transitioning from college to the pro. That space between your college football season and the NFL draft is a devaluation period. All the scouts and all the people on the outside, they're basically saying, this is why this guy can't play at the next level. He's not tall enough, or he's not fast enough, or he doesn't have loose enough hips, or all the stuff that they do, right? So it can kind of get in your head a little bit because, for me to go out and lead the nation as a receiver my senior year, and then to get into that draft process, and the draft scouts are, poking holes in your game, and they're saying, yeah, you're this, but you're not that. It's something that I tell guys to be aware of, and it has nothing to do with the player. It has everything to do with the way teams try to hide players that they're interested in. And so, the Miami Dolphins ended up giving me a call in the 5th round, and Norv Turner, I remember like it was yesterday. He said, "JR, we're going to make you a Dolphin." And that was kind of how that process culminated. Very excited, man, to get that phone call. And again, one of the prouder moments of my, not only my sports career, but just my career in general, was receiving the phone call that I was going to be an NFL draft pick.
That's so cool, man. And then going into the NFL, how was that transition? Now you're leaving college, now you're going into the NFL. What is that transition like?
It's different. So the biggest thing really is the amount of time you spend on football. I mean, the game, the biggest jump is from high school to college physically. When you're in high school and you're 18 and you're playing against 14-year-olds, the gap between the best player and the worst player is pretty wide. When you get to college, I mean, that gap shrinks like crazy,
Yeah.
right? And so physically, the biggest jump is going from high school to college. Going from college to the NFL, the jump is more mental. Because as a college football player, as much time as we spend in our program, we don't spend as much time as NFL players spend studying the game. I mean, it's an 8 hour day of meetings and practice and meetings and practice. Whereas in college, you might sit in your meeting room for an hour, maybe 4 or 5 hours a week. In the NFL, you're sitting in that meeting room for 20, 25 hours a week, right? And then you're expected to watch film on your own. So the biggest jump in transition is really the mental aspect, becoming a professional, understanding that this is now your job, this is what you're being paid to do, and approaching it accordingly.
Wow, that's freaking awesome, man. And how was that for you? How was it playing in the NFL?
It was good, man. I my career didn't end up the way that I would have liked, which I think 99% of players will say, unless you're Peyton Manning and you get to retire after winning the Super Bowl. Most guys' career doesn't go exactly the way they want it to. But I got a chance to play for some great organizations. I was drafted by the Dolphins. Got a chance to play for Aztec alum John Fox with the Carolina Panthers. Played for Bill Parcells. I mean, arguably the most legendary coach in the history of the game when I played for the Cowboys. And again, my on the field stuff didn't go exactly the way I wanted to, but the experiences that I received from those organizations, some of the teammates that I met, some of the friendships that I created is second to none in terms of experience is concerned.
That's amazing, man. You're definitely a part of 1%. It's less than 1%, I'd say, of athletes, football players that get a chance to actually put on an NFL jersey. And you got to do it for multiple teams and multiple years, which I definitely take my hat off to you, man. Much respect onto that. And your life after football, what's that been like? Well, not you're not all the way out of football. Your life out of actually just playing professionally football. How's that been for you?
When I transitioned out of the NFL, I did two things. I started a business, which was a waste and recycling consulting company that I started in 2008, sold in 2012. It's still here in San Diego, doing well. It's called Global Disposal. And I got a job. So I was a athletic director and a head football coach at a small private school in Newport Beach, Sage Hill School, very similar to like Francis Parker and La Jolla Country Day. And I was there from 2009 to 2015. So my transition out of the game was amazing. I got a chance to work in an environment where it was a nonprofit. So I got to see how nonprofits pursue missions in fiscally responsible ways by working at Sage Hill School. And that was always, that was a piece of me. In every athlete, like at the end of the day, we play the game because we love it. Yes, there's a lot of ancillary things that come with it, but you can't play football or basketball or baseball, get to the highest level if you don't have some sort of like internal love for the game. So when I transitioned out of the game and I get a chance to coach and being an athletic director in a business environment, it was really something that kind of like set my mind to, what, regardless of what I'm doing professionally, if I don't love it, I'm not going to do it. And so that was really the coolest thing about my experience transition out of league. Teaching and coaching at that little private school in Newport Beach really kind of changed my mindset to say it's not about the money that we make or we don't make. It's all about enjoying and being passionate about what we do. And then if we do that, the money will come, and you take it as it comes from there.
That's awesome, man, and I'm glad you said that, man. And that is an amazing transition. It doesn't go like that for a lot of guys, where all their eggs are just in one basket when it comes to football, and it really shows that you've expanded your mind to be able to think outside the box a little bit, actually be able to pursue your dreams outside of football. And which I didn't get to mention, but even coming out of Mira Mesa, you made the all academic team coming out of there. And that leads me into like advice. What advice would you give some of these guys in high school right now? They're chasing their D1 dreams to make it to the NFL. What advice can you give these guys?
Man, learn as much as you possibly can about as many things as you possibly can. And it sounds counterproductive and counterintuitive, but you just never know what that thing you're going to learn is going to spark that other passion in you. And sports is a sport that's driven, or sports is an industry that's driven by passion, but you can't play it forever. So for me, one thing I would tell the guys is don't be afraid to introduce new topics and new concepts into your life. And you may not use them now because you are, fully focused on plan A, if you will, which is the game. But the more you learn, the more information you pick up outside of the game is really going to kind of determine what you do when it's time to transition away from the game. And I think a big piece of that is, and you mentioned it, Abe, is mentorship. Find somebody that you admire. If you're sitting in high school and you're a 12th grader and you have an uncle who's running a business and you're like, man, I really admire my uncle and I really admire what he does. Or you see somebody on TV and you admire what they do and you can see yourself doing what they do. Position yourself to have conversations with people like that as much as possible. Success leaves clues, and most guys that are successful are always willing to give you the clues to help you get from where you are to where you want to be. But you have to be the one that takes that first initiative, ask for help, put yourself in a position to gather information, and then be able to see yourself in a position that you're currently not in, using people and resources along the way to finally get there.
Man, that's some golden nuggets right there. I really appreciate that, JR, man. That's some good stuff for some of these youngsters coming out. Even for the people that are in college now or just getting out of college, that's definitely some word of advice in life. So I really appreciate that. Appreciate your time, man. Hopefully later down the line we can have you back. Thank you again, man. Much respect.
Let's go, Mira, Mesa. Thanks for having me, Abe. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, man.